Welcome to a video on the worst and most annoying driving behaviors. Now, it doesn't matter what country you live in, if you've ever driven a vehicle before on public roads, you have to deal with other people. Now, I'm not going to start pointing fingers. I'm not going to blame people. We've all made mistakes behind the wheel. We will continue to make mistakes behind the wheel, and chances are you may have even done some of these things in this list. I know I have, but let's start going over some of them. Now, you'll notice this list has less to do with laws and regulations and more to do with common courtesy. That's what grates on people's nerves the most, is when you're not considerate of the people around you, like not using your turn signals. And let's be straight, it's one of the simplest functions you can do behind the wheel. It literally takes moving your hand an inch or a couple centimeters to let somebody know behind you what's going on. Eventually, if you're bad at this, you're probably going to get rear-ended at some point in your driving career. Next up is one of the most annoying things in existence: driving side by side with another vehicle going the same speed. It doesn't matter if you're on a 2-lane road or a 10-lane superhighway. It must be the human condition. You could have 10 cars in the matter of 500 miles and you'll have them stacked up right next to each other. So the best way to avoid this, if you do it, is treat all the left lanes as passing lanes. Always stay to the far right until you have to pass. Move around them and get back into the right lane. This can also help you with speeding tickets, but it's definitely one of the most annoying things because it impedes traffic flow when you're just sitting there next to somebody. Now, in continuation of that, camping in the left lane. And this is one of the most annoying things on 2-lane roads or also on highways when you're doing road trips. You'll be kind of picking up a good pace and you'll come upon that one car, and it always seems to be a Prius that's just sitting in the left lane for no reason. And I think a lot of people just don't understand you should be moved over to the right unless you have to pass. Now, one of the biggest traffic disruptors and annoyances are people that slow down when they merge. And this is a big deal on the highway. And there's multitudes of factors here. People can't judge speed, or a lot of on-ramps are twisty, so they have to turn and accelerate, and a lot of people aren't comfortable with that. But one of the biggest issues is pulling onto a road that is 55, 60, or 70 miles an hour, and you pull onto the highway going 35. Now you're causing the traffic not only to have to slow down for you, or to slam on their brakes or move over. Not only that, is it makes it unsafe for the person that's stuck behind you and you're just putting along. So try to get your vehicle up to the speed limit to merge onto the highway. It just makes things easier for everybody. Now, this is one that most everybody's come upon. Either you've done it yourself or you've been subjected to this nonsense. That is speeding up when somebody is trying to pass you. Now, whether you're on a rural road, 2-lane road where it gets dangerous, or you're on a highway, people do not like to be passed, namely in the United States. Instead of just slowing up and letting the person go around you and let them go on their way, no. In the middle of a pass, somebody will slam on the accelerator and speed up so they can't pass. Or on the highway, as soon as somebody tries to go around them, they speed up so they can't get by. It's just a massive annoyance, and some people aren't even aware that they're doing it. Now, this one is one of my personal pet peeves, and that is people that slow down excessively for every single turn. Now, I'm not talking about driving through the mountains or when there's 10 inches of snow on the ground. Of course, you want to drive safe for the conditions. But to drop 15 miles an hour off the speed limit for a slight bend in the road is just ridiculous. This next one is something that we've all experienced or done ourselves. And it's usually because you're not paying attention, or you're distracted, or maybe you're just afraid to drive. Driving under the speed limit. And there's really no excuse for this in good conditions. In fact, for the people that don't even want to be in a car, they hate driving, don't drive slower than you need to, because you're just taking away from the rest of your life when you can be doing something else. That 10 miles an hour under the speed limit over the course of 10, 15 years can accumulate into literally days of your life disappeared. So just keep up the pace. Here's another one. You may have done it. I have done it, definitely on a right turn when you have a green arrow. You kind of stop because you're not paying attention to the arrow, you're more concerned with traffic flow. And while they can be safe, it's not particularly safe when you have cars stacked up behind you when you stop on a green. And I've had this happen to me where somebody went through a green and then panicked in the middle of the intersection, slammed on the brakes, and I rear-ended them. I actually did that in a press car. So this is something to be aware of. Pay attention to the signals. On to the next one, which can be a bigger deal depending on where you live. Crossing a double yellow in a turn. We don't live on a racetrack. And if you're in an area where there's a lot of blind turns with a higher speed limit, you cross that double yellow, You could hit a motorcycle, you can hit another car, and it could be disastrous, not only to yourself, but somebody else. So it's something to be aware of. You know, if you want to do spirited driving, take it to a racetrack. Or if you're just oblivious, stay within the lines. Now, this next one is a lot about common courtesy. It's happened to me a lot, namely driving on rural roads. I could be the only one on the highway for miles either direction, and then all of a sudden, someone pulls out in front of you and then doesn't speed up. Now, this one blows my mind because they could have just easily waited for me to go. Nope, but instead they pull out in front, which is okay, but then they don't speed up and I have to slam on my brakes or almost hit them sometimes. And it's one of those, it goes along with the mentality of not letting someone in front of you. And I just don't get it. This is another classic, and I think we've all done this. You don't know where the hell you're going. You're looking for an address, you're looking for where a building is, and you just keep stopping, and there's traffic stacked up behind you. You keep stopping and looking. You may turn on your turn signal to turn a couple times, but then you don't turn. And this is just one of the most annoying driving behaviors ever. If you don't know where you're going, pull off and wave people by so you can kind of figure out and get your bearings. Now, this next one's a big deal. We've all done it. We're going to continue to do it because we're flawed as human drivers. And that is riding the brakes on the highway for no reason. Now, this has been studied greatly. And when you hit the brakes and you just keep tapping them because either you can't judge the speed or you're not paying attention, you cause this chain reaction or the rubber banding effect. You hit the brakes, people behind you hit the brakes, and it can go miles down the chain and traffic starts to do this, slows down and contracts. So the best way to do it is pay attention, obviously, which you're not going to do. Move over and give yourself more room in front of you. And just understand how your car deaccelerates when you lift off the gas. The car will slow down on its own, but learn it instead of hitting the brakes all the time. That's the end of this list. And I'm going to say it, doesn't matter what kind of driver you are, good, bad, or in between, you're going to make mistakes. And the best thing to do is be aware of some of these things you do and try to correct them so you're not causing yourself issues or causing the people around you. Now, I'm sure in the comments, people are going to post a million things that pisses them off, which feel free to do, and we'll continue this series over time. Thanks for watching.